Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video today. We are in the middle, or in the beginning somewhere, of spectacular 31 days of Halloween. So what topic am I going to bring to you today? Well, it's going to be something funky. And by giving you a tiny little hint with my alien earrings and my out there necklace, maybe you'll come up with who I'm talking about. Maybe. I don't know. We're going to talk about one of the most famous people on the planet and how, since their death, they have been extremely busy. We're talking about Elvis Presley. Yes, the king of rock and roll. So, how is this? How are we going to have all of these theories about a person who has passed away in the 70s? Strangely enough, there are many things that this man actually could have faked his death and gone on to do. We're going to cover a few of them. So, why do people think that Elvis faked his death? This is very interesting because there are a few things that, if you put together, could actually seem feasible. First, Elvis Presley died on a toilet due to heart issues. Now, death comes from everybody, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in the most forgiving fashion. Very well could have happened, but some people had a hard time believing the king would die on his throne. So, yeah. National Enquirer sent in someone to take a photo of Elvis's body. He should have been embalmed. He should have had all of that stuff happen, but he was buried very quickly after his death. And apparently there was no autopsy, but I'm not 100% sure on that theory. But the person who snuck in to take a photo of Elvis's corpse while he was laying in wait showed that the corpse was sweating. So there's no way that a corpse should be sweating. And that's why people theorize that Elvis was alive and he faked his death. And yeah, he went on to do other things. But why would he fake his death? He was one of the biggest talents in the entire world, even though he might have become washed up at that point because of his weight problem and other issues in his personal life. However, he was run into the ground by his very controlling manager called the Colonel. And to quote my mother, the Colonel killed him. Okay. He was your quintessential yes man and the person who put all of his needs in front of Elvis's. So he would work the man to the bone. He would steal money from him. He would keep him supplied with drugs, food, alcohol, and everything that he wanted. Towards the end of Elvis's life, the Colonel made a deal with Las Vegas to have a show with Elvis. Elvis at that point didn't want to do it anymore, and he sure as heck didn't want to make the Colonel any more money. He didn't want to do it. So he faked his death and got rid of the Colonel for once and for all. That is one theory. Plausible, sort of. Oh, why do other people think that Elvis faked his own death? He actually was involved with the FBI, and I'm not insane. This is all documented things. So when Elvis met President Nixon, he was named a FBI agent. This wasn't honorary. He actually was named an FBI agent and was known to have worked with several cases, including drug busts. Now, the irony of this situation is Elvis, when that big photo op happened, was high AF when he was meeting Richard Nixon. But he really was breaking down barriers and going towards the war on drugs because Elvis decided, I don't know, but Elvis actually had FBI clearance. So he helped bring down a mob family. Again, all public records, so you can check this out for yourselves. But Elvis he sold one of his cars to a mob boss. This mob boss wrote a check to cover the expense of this caddy. Elvis turned the check over to the FBI, where they were able to gather information from said check and bust these guys. They busted the mob. So Elvis had some pretty powerful enemies. And do you think they would really let him keep going? Elvis probably didn't either, so he faked his own death and went to live his own life, waiting until a particular moment when he could come back and reclaim himself as king. Because Elvis is the king, and we're all schmucks. Dogma. Yeah, no. Who knows? The mob tie is real. One of the other theories is Elvis was abducted by aliens because they loved him and he went into the stratosphere somewhere, went and did some Elvis rock and roll in the stratosphere and came back. Now he is actually a man who is doing Elvis impressions and making money that way. I have one more theory before I go on to something truly weird. Okay, picture it. August 2000, Memphis, Tennessee, Graceland. Okay. So my family went to Graceland and we, of course, had to go do the tour. And while we were on the tour, one of the tour guides explained to us that we could not go upstairs. This is still Lisa Marie Presley's residence. So she is able to come and go as she likes. And there are times that they don't have tours at all because she's in residence. This is her home. So it was explained to us that we were not able to see the upstairs, which was the living quarters for Lisa and her children at that point. My brother Aaron looked at the tour guide and said, "Yeah, that's not the reason. The reason is Elvis is up there doing his taxes." And the look on this poor girl's face told me that he was probably right. Elvis was upstairs doing his taxes, not being the king anymore, still figuring out the tax situation from the 70s. Elvis might have been the king, but he still had to pay his taxes. One of the most strangest, but oddly curious and slightly possible theory is Elvis faked his own death and recently has come back as a man legally known as Bob Joyce. Now, Bob Joyce is a pastor who is taking on mannerisms of the king. In fact, he even sings like him. People truly believe that he is Elvis, not reincarnated, but Elvis who had faked his own death, who is now a preacher. I will actually link this in the description box so you guys can take a look yourselves and see a comparison between Bob and Elvis. Some of it's extraordinary, some of it is just weird. Um, I don't think that it's possible for Elvis and Bob to be the same person, just for starting the very basic thing of age. Bob looks like he's probably healthy in his 70s. Elvis today would be approximately 84 years old, and he wouldn't look that good, especially with the life Elvis led. He lived a gluttonous life full of drugs and alcohol. His skin wouldn't look that good. He probably wouldn't be walking around and dancing as well as this man is. Who knows? But there are people who really believe that Bob is Elvis. Now, part of the belief is that everybody, including his wife and his child, believed if Elvis came back today, he would not be the king of rock and roll. He would be working the gospel. Elvis at heart was a church boy. He was a beautiful, beautiful gospel singer. And while that is not my cup of tea, I don't think there is a person on earth that can't see the beauty in Elvis's gospel singing. And if you have not listened to any of his gospel music, do yourself a favor and listen. It will give you goosebumps. It'll make you feel some sort of Holy Spirit. It is beautiful, beautiful music. And that man knew his scripture. He knew his Bible. And it meant a lot to him. He wanted to stop his career of singing rock and roll and eventually go into gospel full time. If he had lived, I believe that is something he would have done. But since he died, that didn't happen. Now, apparently, he is a man named Bob who is claiming to be Elvis. Now, he acts like he has his memories. He acts like he speaks of himself as Elvis in this other life, but as himself. He is using the personification of this character, whether that be Elvis or Bob, to bring in people to his flock. Now, I understand that it's a way to get people to listen to you. There's a point where there's some advantage being taken, and I don't know. If you're going to lead someone to the message, do you want to do it honorably or do you want to do it with a lie? And I hate saying this to all those believers out there, but I don't think that Bob Joyce is Elvis Presley. I think Elvis has left the building. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I know that's gonna hurt some people's feelings who are very big into this whole Bob Joyce thing, but I don't see how it's possible. I also really question somebody who is using this type of story to lead them to the gospel. But we're just gonna, pull a few cards here and see if Elvis is Bob. If Elvis faked his death, and he might be living in the Caribbean somewhere. Hell, he might be in like Pluto or something. So I get the Knights of Wands. Of course, Elvis was a very strong, very charismatic person, and he would be all over the place. Wow, he was magical. Of course, he was magical. Listen to his voice. He could sing and bring people to tears. He could move them. He could make them feel things. That is magic. His words were magic. His music was magic. It was beautiful. I feel like there was definitely some mystery surrounding his death, some like, look over here while this happens. I feel like there was definitely misdirect. He what did they do to his body? There's been rumor. I feel like his body's been moved. There's been rumors for years that Elvis's body at Graceland is actually not his because of the misspelling on the tombstone. So Elvis's middle name is Aaron, but the misspelling on the tombstone was Elvis Aaron A. It didn't have the double A, so Aron, not Aaron. So there are people who theorize that Elvis's body is not in Graceland, and I would agree. I don't think he's there. Um, he was definitely a hermit on his own on this journey. This is interesting where this is taking me. Hardworking man, definitely a hardworking man, but I almost feel like he was worked to the bone and slaved. I don't want to use the word otherwise, but he slaved away at his job for penance because of other people in his life taking and taking and taking from him. This is a really weird reading that's leading me down a road that I didn't think I was going to. Definitely see the religious symbolism in here with the cup, with the chalice, with the fish. Definitely very a religious person. Um, it was the king, but he had people over him, and those people over him definitely drowned him spiritually, emotionally, physically. They drained him every way that you could think of, and these people were ready to knock down, drag out, fight to get what they wanted from Elvis, even if that meant stealing or killing or something. I see an agreement between someone with a lot of money and a medical professional. Elvis faked his death. Holy crap. I don't know what the agreement was about, but there was an agreement between Elvis and a medical professional. Homeless. Homeless. I think there were many years of homelessness, but of course, Elvis as a child was near homelessness many times and was almost frozen to death in some of those very cold winters. I'm not laughing at this. I'm. Justice. So there's karmatic justice happening to all of the people in Elvis's world who did something horrific to him. And there were a lot of people, including the Colonel, and the Colonel was the one that's probably going to be the most notable, but justice was served. Elvis was definitely a big star, so big that he probably could have his own star right now named after him. Like, something in Orion's belt, like Beetlejuice or Sirius. What? There is talk of resurrection and many gifts. I mean, yes, I guess he could be alive today in reincarnation form, but this is not what I'm talking about. This is Elvis faking his own death. Things are not as they seem. There's a lot of information flow, but there's a lot of religious symbolism also in this card. I feel like there's a female out there who knows exactly what happened. So if Elvis did fake his own death. Then he had to have the confidant. There is one person out there who knows for sure the situation surrounding Elvis's death and if he actually faked his death. And the reason I'm cracking up is because these cards are showing me he faked his death and lived happily ever after. Oh. He'll be found out eventually if it's true. I mean, let's look at it this way. The National Enquirer or several other places in this world have asked for undoubted proof of life beyond Earth. Proof was given to them. Everybody laughs. You know, they offered rewards for proof of ghosts. Lots of people answered, they got laughed at. People are asking for proof of Elvis being alive after death. They got a lot of stuff. A lot of people laughed. What a confusing situation, because you think he would be bound. But for someone who's dead, he's sure working really hard. Putting out all that. Wow. I mean, death and life. I am not going to get a clear answer here. All right, everybody. So to clear this whole matter up, is Elvis alive or dead? I have no idea. I really don't. I did not expect to be reading cards like that. I didn't expect that to happen. So, at the end of the day, Elvis is still the king, and I am just a schmuck. Alright. If you enjoyed this reading and the slight breakdown, please continue watching this channel. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps these tiny little channels out. And you can see my breakdown live, or however it happens. At the end of Spooktacular, I want to have a live, but I'll talk about that more. If you're interested in any of these beautiful earrings or the necklaces that I got, they are from Melissa Blue Delish. I will leave her link in the description. I will also leave a link in the descriptions for other cool things, such as the tarot cards and some other fun things, maybe the ears. But you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. Please continue to support this channel. It means a lot to me. And until next time, it's it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood to not know what happened to Elvis. All right, bye for now.